it on the intro screen and let's just check and see if the audio is functional. So I'm going to watch live on my computer here and we'll see.
All right. We are going live. This is a test stream.
I'm going to watch live on my computer here and we'll see. Did you hear me talking to you?
Yes.
Not talking?
We got Garrett Daly here in the studio with us today.
Not for long.
Are you going to be able to manage the chat on Facebook?
Yeah, I'll be watching.
If there is anything that people are asking, just let me know.
Yeah, good deal. All right, I'm moving downstairs. I'm gonna go watch, but I'll get in the chat, and then if the audio gets weird, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Keep your phone available.
All right.
Cool. Cool.
All
right.
Sounds good.
Have fun. Break a leg.
Hey guys,
Hi.
welcome. Sunny, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can, good.
Cool.
All right, well, we're going to start with the intro here and get underway as people come in. All right. Welcome.
Hi, Sunny, by the way. Hi.
Hey.
Okay.
All right, let's jump into it. So we got some designers here today. Philip is a British designer working in branding and promotion. He says he's old enough to remember a time in the galaxy far, far away before computers came into design, when everything was done by hand. Is that right? Is that right, Philip?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm older than I look, yeah.
In the past, he's gained experience both as an employee and as a freelancer. So he's worked in a bunch of different industry or a bunch of different parts of the design industry, and he's now the creative director for his own company. And you want to talk a little bit about that company today, and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I work with a partner. I was going to talk about my partner in a bit as well, but it's one of the crucial parts in the jigsaw for me to find someone that I really wanted to start a company with. Crucially, she's a writer, so I produce the visual parts of our design company, and she controls the written part of our design output.
Mm-hmm.
Then we tend to work like a hub on a bicycle wheel. We pull in freelance people from all over the place. So we have a specialist photographer or video maker or whatever it happens to be. And we produce brand communications, and it's as broad as that. Anything that involves words or pictures is something that we get involved with. And we work with global companies. We work across all nations,
Mm-hmm.
in different languages. So
Wow.
It's got words and pictures. We do it.
Awesome. So you've worked with print, digital, 3D projects over a whole list of global clients, from Pizza Hut to the British government. But you said that one thing in common was the great ideation with high production values and execution. Philip has also won awards in the New York Advertising Festivals and the British D and AD Awards and the World Media Awards, among others. He is also a member of AIGA, and in his spare time, Philip designs fonts, and he's about to publish a few, right?
Yeah, that's if I had my time again, I'd maybe a bit of a font designer. I love doing it now. But it's funny, I've been through quite a few years of working in different parts of design. It's just what I found that I love doing. It's not exactly my spare time because I often work for working for clients who want font design as well. But it's what I love doing. It's funny. I've moved from being a print designer through to being a font designer via advertising and packaging and lots of different areas of design. That's one of the fun things about being your own boss and being a freelance. You can work. You can pick and choose where you want to work in some, to an extent. Obviously, you need to go where the work is.
I can't imagine you have a ton of free time, though.
No, I haven't. No, I've got children. I'm married and everything. So
How many kids do you have?
2.
Oh, okay. How old?
18 and 15.
Oh,
so,
wow. Okay.
Well, one of them wants to be a designer, so maybe something good dropped off.
Mine is 1 month old, so if you hear her in the background, forgive me. But yeah, little difference there.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And yeah, that's awesome. Sunny is our other feature today, and he is the founder and owner of Paradigm Designs. Sunny, you want to tell us a little bit about how you got started and where you're at today?
Hey, yeah. So my background is in industrial design, which is the design of products, brands, and businesses at scale. And I started my career in doing a little bit like consulting and projects with some corporate innovation companies. Worked with the Coca-Cola innovation team on the Coca-Cola O, worked with the Lowe's innovation team on the Lowe's Core, LG Aura, what else? Anyways. And then after a while, I realized that I was looking for something a little more than the corporate life. So shortly after graduating and trying to figure out like what kind of path I wanted to take, I ended up jumping ship and really going full force on the freelancing. And I found that I really got a lot of fulfillment and enjoyed working with startups and entrepreneurs, small to medium businesses. Something that I really enjoyed was getting to see the people face to face and getting to know that the work I was doing and creating was directly impacting and helping their businesses grow. Fast forward a year after that, I nearly burnt out. I took on too much work, didn't set boundaries for myself, ended up working 7 days a week. And the straw that broke the camel's back was essentially, I missed my first big deadline. And I was like, this is not sustainable. I can't continue like this. Something has to change. So
definitely been there.
At the time, my mom was going to visit family in Taiwan. So I went with her for about a month and a half and only kept, like 2 or 3 clients to keep things afloat. And when I came back, I realized, I'm only one person. I can only do so much. And I've got my specializations and also my breadth, but everyone is like that. What if I built a team? Then I would be able to impact more entrepreneurs, impact more businesses, and be able to have each person really be working on where they are the best at, right? And where they have the greatest capabilities in, and really serve the partners that we work with in the best way possible. So from there, we started scaling up, growing, and some 300 projects later, we're about here now. And along the way, we've had the opportunities to work with companies like Jacuzzi and Adidas on the global brand side of things, and on the startup, small business side of things, we've been blessed to work with companies like Morning Brew. We designed their brand, and I believe at the end of 2019, they had grown over the past 2 years to a 13 million company from a pretty small media company. And some other companies you might be familiar with include Cade Nesher of New Run. That was a pretty incredible project. He was able to raise $500,000 with 1517 using some of our work, and subsequently go on to partner with companies like Gatorade and Bose and Adidas. And that was really fun. And now they're talking with the Tokyo Olympics.
Wow.
But that all kind of culminated in me realizing that, my purpose is to help other people achieve their purpose. I think all the entrepreneurs, designers, visionaries, business owners, they all have a vision for how they'd like the world to be. And I don't think we're out here predicting it. I think we're all out here building it. And that collectively, we are creating the next iteration of the future. And that's something I would like to be a part of. So.
Wow, awesome. And Philip, you want to talk a little bit about how you got into the owning your own design studio?
Yeah, a sequence of events. Some weren't planned and some were deliberately planned. So just a little bit of history. So when I got my first job as an employee, as a design junior, straight out of college, I worked for my first place for 7 years, which was way too long for a first job. I should have been in and out within the first 2 or 3 years or something like that. But I come from a time when people were, they could get a job for life. That was still an idea when I was, graduating. In the design industry, of course, now it's accepted that you move between agencies and you gain experience as you move along, and you go from a junior to a middleweight and then to a senior position, and then potentially you might move on to become, a creative director or something like that. So I spent 7 years in a company that I always thought I would be there forever. Design bubble burst and I was made redundant, and that wasn't, that was a shock. Been in for so long, so I had to sort of rethink what I was going to do, and I did think about becoming a freelance at that stage, but
Bethany, sorry
to interrupt.
Cut you off there.
Philip, apologies.
So actually, do you want to introduce Bethany now, or should I carry on talking about my Me.
Let's introduce Bethany. So Bethany builds digital products and crafts company websites and identities for startups and small businesses, award-winning design agencies and Fortune 500 companies. And she has raised pro bono over 100,000 in donations for COVID relief and was featured on Yahoo News and Upwork. So that's pretty impressive. That's amazing. And I want to hear a little bit more about how you got started in the whole owning your own design studio field, and how you took that into your own hands, made your own future possible. You want to share with us a little bit about where you started?
Yeah, definitely. So I started out in ad tech. So my first job out of college was at an ad tech company in the RTP area, Research Triangle Park. And so I was an interaction designer. And so I was a part of a pretty big design team. So at bigger companies, you tend to be able to be split into specific like roles. Mm-hmm. So in a UX team, there's like a user researcher, a visual designer, an interaction designer. And so I was an interaction designer. And so I worked that job for a couple years, a little over 2 years, and I learned a lot. I got to work with really talented designers, learn what it means to build a product from inception with product managers all the way to delivering it to development, and kind of what it takes to do that, which is a lot. It's
not easy. Yeah, no, I can tell you it's not easy.
And so that was an amazing experience to be able to I was the one who ended up setting timelines and setting expectations with product management, negotiating for design and for user testing if maybe the timeline was a little more crunched than we would ideally, how it tends to be. And so I really enjoyed that piece of it, kind of combining the design and the business side of things, and advocating for design within the context of understanding business needs and user needs.
Yeah.
And I decided that I was ready to leave. I was ready to stretch my legs and learn something new. But I looked around at the other jobs in the area, which were largely tech jobs. If you're an interaction designer, you're going to go and do UX work most likely. And nothing really stuck out to me. And I was getting to be in a place where my mental health was really declining because I really felt stuck in my own career. And so I decided to just quit. And so I quit. No backup. And I thought, I'm just going to figure it out. And then within 2 weeks, just because I had a pretty deep network within the Raleigh-Durham community from going to the College of Design, keeping in contact with people like Sunny, being involved with like creative mornings and things like that. You meet a lot of other creatives. And so I had people coming to me within 2 weeks with like design asks. So I didn't initially intend to start doing freelance. I just kind of meant to honestly take a few months off and like figure out what I wanted to do next, and then like start applying to jobs.
Yeah.
But really quickly, I had people coming to me, and by the time I had my last day at my job, I had 40 hours a week of work lined up with 3 different clients. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll see how long this lasts. And so I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. I never once had to go looking for work for over a year and a half. People kept coming to me, and just because I had such a strong network within the Raleigh-Durham community. With every client, it was a little bit bigger, a little bit more complicated, a little bit scarier. I got to collaborate with designers like Sunny and my friend Taylor on projects. So that was really cool. So I wasn't always the only designer, which being the only designer can be a hard thing as a freelancer. And so that's what I did. I most recently, like a month ago, started working full-time at a startup in Durham that really I connected with. So eventually I did find...
So how long did you do that whole freelance thing before you got into working at a design studio?
I did the freelance job for a little over a year and a half. So I was on my own. And about a year...
very similar to Sunny. He just basically had the whole thing that you just went through is almost a copy of what he said in essence, like going from working on your own and just almost burning out. He just talked about how he like went through burning out and that whole situation, which I feel like we've all been there or been really close to there, and somebody else who's gone through it was like, you need to slow down. Because I've thankfully had people like Sunny in my life to be like, hey, you need to evaluate the core processes that are keeping you from succeeding. Like something's wrong if you're not, if you're working 60 hours and you're going full speed all the time, you're gonna burn out.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? I want to ask Philip then. I know we cut you off, sorry about that. But what would you say are some of the skills necessary to turn a freelancing opportunity or freelancing into your own business and, an LLC or anything else? How would you define that skill set?
I think that, the first obvious thing is you need clients. You need to have clients that you can rely upon, that will give you repeat work, because you're going to be spending all your time finding new clients, and that takes I don't know what the figures are, but it's like 7 times as much effort to find a new client is to service an existing one. There's various stats around whether that figure is accurate, but I'll just go back and say the first client that I had as a freelance, I actually went with an agency, a freelance agency. So they used to place me in different companies. Mm-hmm. So I was direct. I worked for design agencies. I worked for all sorts of people, and I picked up a client there. It was actually one of the big cancer, like you have Cancer Society of America, I think. So it was the British, and they stayed with the client with me for 20 years. So if I'd known that when I started out, then I would have been amazed. I didn't think I could beat 7 years in this agency I started with, mm-hmm. but they stayed with me for 20 years. Now, if I had 2 or 3 clients last me for 20 years, then that's all I'd need, because they were giving me so much work. I was getting over I did a job a week for them, sort of thing. So go back to the question. So having clients on board, preferably good clients as well, ones that will want the best out of you, clients who will want you to be creative, who want to partner with you and not just tell you what they want, because that's all the process. We're all creative designers, right? And we want to collaborate. We want to get the best out of any project that we've got. Mm-hmm. For me, because I wasn't terribly confident especially having come out of my 7 years and been made redundant twice, actually. I've been made redundant twice. So that kind of knocks the confidence. Finding a partner, someone that I knew that I could trust in, someone that I could bounce creative ideas off, someone who understood a bit about design, but who brought a complementary skill to my business, which was my copywriting partner. And that really sowed the seed of, we knew we wanted to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. She stayed with her job for a while I tried out the freelance route. So at least we had one income into the company, and it kind of worked. There were weeks when we had not much on, and then some weeks we were overcrowded. But it doesn't take long for you then to go to stage 2, which is to start finding collaborators. Because the last thing you want to do is let your customer down and say, I can't do a job for you, because you want that workflow to keep going for you. So finding collaborators, whether that's a full-time partner or somebody you can offset your freelance work to, is a good stage for us. You have to make sure your systems are in place as well. So your financing, your premises, your acquisition, all those sorts of things come into it. Ultimately, at some point, you might want to find some premises, but we're going a bit further down the line here. Yeah. But number one is really clients, and I guess also finding the kind of work that you're making.
Just to recap, like what you said on that, the clients part, in terms of a skill set, that would be conveying value to individuals. That you have to have somebody who's sold into the value. You all talked about being almost overwhelmed with the amount of people coming to you, begging you to do their work. And then there's people out there who I'm sure are watching, and they're like, I can't even get anyone to do my work, to take my work. So the difference is, you got to be able to convince people. You need the skill of convincing people that there's value, because it's there, and you have to show them where it is. Am I off on that?
No, I think you're right on that. But as I gave you an example, for me, I didn't have to sell to the end clients. I sold myself to an agency who then found jobs for me. So mm-hmm. I kind of halfway step. I wasn't dumped right into the deep end, although I was made redundant. So that, for me, that worked. Mm-hmm. I also do things like, I think someone mentioned, was it Sunny? I mentioned that you can join business breakfast clubs, that sort of thing. So I joined BNI. I'm sure you know BNI, Business Network International. It's an American business network club. And, getting up once a week for a couple of years, it's amazing the amount of other businesses that you're exposed to.
Yeah.
All of design at some point, even if it's the company logo or it's or their website or their new product design, whatever it is.
Yeah. Sonny also had, what were you going to say? I don't want to lose that thought.
Oh, I was just going to say something when I was first starting to freelance. I went through a little bit of an identity crisis, and I too also felt like I had to convince people that I was the right choice, or that this is the right strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, I would actually find that if I shifted the mindset from convincing to communicating, and they sound very similar, but I realized that there was a big difference. In convincing is saying like, hey, you're trying to change their mind. But I think communicating is helping them realize that both of you actually want the same thing, right? You both want to be successful together. And that when you look at it from a mode of, am I communicating as clearly as I could be, the value and the unique differentiation that I bring, and what I can do for your company, it puts you in the mindset of how can I make sure that I'm getting my value across to them rather than trying to change their mind or convince them otherwise.
Okay.
Can I just say, I think that's a very good point, because when you're trying to convince someone, you've already got a battle there. You mustn't be, not every customer is going to like what you do, because people have different tastes and people want to see different things in other people's work. So, don't panic, I guess, is what I'd say to a lot of people who want to change into, from finding clients. People will find your work. I guess then that comes down to how well you promote yourself. Have you got a website? Do you have an Instagram page? All these things we didn't have when I was a junior. I had a portfolio with printed designs, but it's the same sort of thing now. You have to find ways to communicate what it is that you do, as Sonny said, and not try so hard to convince people. In short, have a bit of confidence in your own work, in your own abilities. Know what your design can do, and have confidence.
It can raise 100,000 in donations.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So how do you do that?
How do you? Oh, you have a really strong team. It was not just me, right? Like,
yes,
if I were to build
this
this website by myself, it would have looked really cool, and it would have gotten like, I don't know, maybe $1,000 in donations, because I don't have a lot of skills in terms of like marketing. I am of the incorrect opinion or feeling that like, well, if it's really good, then people are just gonna find it and they're gonna share it, and then it's just inherently gonna grow. No, you need people who are dedicated to putting together a press kit, to reaching out to a bunch of different news sources and like really pushing it. And that's not my skill set. But the people that I was working with, it was their skill set. And it was people who were really experienced in making successful things and like what it takes to do that. And so I think you do it with a good team, and you, again, keep with a strong network surrounding you.
Yeah, it takes a lot of humility to admit that you don't have all the skills necessary to succeed in what you want to do. Like, your endeavor is going to require you to come alongside other people. I mean, nothing that is great in this day and age was achieved by one person. So surround yourself with the right people.
Can I just add in, that also includes other designers as well, because my work came from other freelance designers. They don't want to get overawed. If they're looking for extra help, well, they'll call on you. Maybe you do the same to them. I've worked with many other people who've become, who've come from other design backgrounds and said, I really need another designer. They're a legitimate source of work as well as anyone else.
Well, what would you say then if someone said that you're competition? Like, what? Someone said to me, like, you don't want to like take their clients, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it very well here. But if you're working with other freelancers or other designers, there's sort of like this competitive feel. How would you combat that? Sonny, do you have your hand up?
I can answer, I guess. So I think early on in the journey, it can be very easy to feel that way. A portion of what we do at Paradigm, I don't know if Garrett's in here, if you can see him, but something that he really runs is sort of like a research and development branch. And we believe that innovation is getting faster and faster, and we need processes and methods to make sure we're not missing different pieces and so forth. And what we realized was, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
How to avoid feeling
Oh,
like
gotcha. Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So enter the partnership economy. It can be very tempting to see everyone else's competition. And I think it's important to put on that hat occasionally sometimes and just do the mental work and work through, okay, well, how can we make sure we're differentiated? But I often find that some of the best partners for our company thus far have actually been people who from the outside seemingly do the same thing as you. But when you actually get to talk to them, you find out that both of you have your strengths and your weaknesses, and focusing on understanding what the overlaps are, right? But also understanding where your differences in strengths are as well. Like earlier today, I was talking with someone else who's kind of in design innovation, and we came to the realization that something I did uniquely was sort of the physical product aspect, and something they did uniquely was sort of the internal org design aspect. The other areas we kind of overlapped, right? Like brand, some graphic design areas, experience design, but they were also able to create and design systems and processes for our hiring and staffing, right? Whereas what we could do in the industrial design, physical product side of things was something that they didn't offer. And so that challenges us to change from like a competitive market view to more of a cooperative market view.
Right.
And we've been calling it the partnership economy up to this point. But if you find a way, everyone that could be a competitor could be a partner. And actually, if you look at, especially with startups, often the best ways for them to exit are with people that otherwise would be their competitors.
Yeah, I think there's a growing trend. Like if you want to scale, it makes more sense to be able to create more value, create more content by partnering alongside of somebody who's in the same field, in the same industry, where you have shared values and interests, than to just try to do all the work yourself and probably only go half speed when you could be, sharing the workload and increasing your scale exponentially, not just, a little bit at a time steadily.
I'd forgotten about the competitor thing. It's such a long time ago, and I'd forgotten all about that. That when you're collaborating with people, that there's going to be someone who always takes the lead. Invariably, it's the person who's paying the money, because effectively another designer is your client, right? But a few well chosen simple words about I'm leading this project goes a long way, because you in some senses what you need to do is not be precious about jobs. Every project is a learning opportunity. You'll be learning something from somebody, whether it's the way they handle money, the way they talk to the customer, the way they present, whatever. There are a million things you can learn from. So every opportunity is a learning opportunity. So that competition thing, yeah, you'll feel it at the beginning, but it falls away very, very, very quickly, because what you're both interested in is producing the best joint project, the best joint job, the best.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that. I think it's better to approach it in terms of what can I learn from you, as opposed to you're my competition. I think if you're the most talented designer in a group, like, you need to get out of that group, right? Because you need to be surrounded with people who are better than you. And that's really uncomfortable, especially if you're a creative, to like land on someone's portfolio and go, oh my God, they're so good, and kind of hate them for it. But also know that you only get better by seeing people do things better than you can possibly do it. Like, that's how you become a stronger designer. That's how you honestly become a stronger anything. And so, I don't know, iron sharpens iron. Surround yourself with people that are really good. And just in general, in this area particularly, like, I haven't seen a lot of competition. People are really eager to help each other out. Generally, most of the freelance people that I know have more work than they know what to do with. So if you say, hey, I'm looking, they'll be like, oh, thank God, I can pass on the work that I don't have time for, that I think isn't a good fit for me, off to you or to someone else who is maybe a different skill set. So
I think I've struggled. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I've struggled on my own, like in the computer programming world where I started doing like machine learning, struggled for so long trying to figure things out on my own. And there's not really like as much of a collaborative. I mean, there's sort of there's not as much skill sharing. There's a collaboration of information, but less so of skill. And then I came over and started working with Sonny and doing design work with him. And I'm not like the best designer myself. I know more of the structure and the code, but like working alongside of them, people taught me so much. Within the first month, I was like 10 times the designer I was when I started. And since then, I've just met so many incredible people who have shared their skills, shared their assets with me. And what we want to do today, it's 5:30, so we're hopefully going to get some people to hop into the Zoom call. If you go to paradigm.cx/zoom-event, and you can hop in here and we will look at your portfolio for 2-3 minutes. You can screen share, show us some design work, and we have one person to start off. Miriam, if you are ready, are you ready to present?
I really wasn't expecting presenting today, but I guess I could.
You want to show us some stuff? I thought you said you wanted to. What? Come on. You want to. You have some incredible design work. I want to see. Just show your website.
Sure, I can show my website. It does not currently have a lot of stuff I've been working on lately. I did recently get a pretty big client and project that just finished, and I'm
Nice.
hoping to put that up soon. But to respect the NDA, I don't have that up right now at the moment. But I'll share my screen.
And you can, this is Miriam, for everybody who's watching. Miriam Reza. Is it Reza?
Yeah, you said it right.
Okay. All right, yeah, if anybody else on the stream wants to hop in here too. Come on, guys, don't be shy.
So this is my portfolio website. It captures a lot of the student work I did when I was at North Carolina State University, which I recently graduated from last year with a degree in design and a minor in graphic design. So this is my listing of projects. I'd have to say my favorite one so far was probably the backpack, which I've designed.
Nice.
And with that, I wanted to create a hybrid backpack duffel. And the idea was that the user could transform it for going to work in the office or going to the gym. And people often need larger bags for gym to hold more items. So that's why, part of the reason why it would expand. With this project,
Oh, nice. Cool.
I did sew the prototype also and have that transformed bit. So it takes about a minute to transform. I did put like a little video on here, but I won't play that today. Is there anything in particular you wanted me to like talk about my work?
Sunny, you got any feedback? Philip, Bethany?
What kind of feedback or advice or questions, I guess, would you prefer to have? Or I guess, what are you looking for?
At this point in time, I'm really looking for how to find new freelancing opportunities. I'm working towards probably just like finishing some details on my website to re-update that again so I can show some of the more recent stuff that I've been working on. So with that, I guess I will need a redesign and have to reevaluate how I want my website laid out with some of the client work that I have done. So that's something I'll have to consider. But I guess the biggest thing is just finding people to work with. And I know like you and Bethany talks about how you had a lot of people coming to you. And I guess for me, I've had the very opposite experience where I've reached out to a lot of people searching for opportunities, but have really been struggling in finding people who are willing to take my work, I guess.
Yeah, so some quick feedback. I think of client opportunities as kind of two ways. One where you're reaching out and looking for people, and then the other where you're setting up the environment that attracts clients into you. And it looks like right now, most of the strategies you're using right now involve you actively going out and looking for people, right? And often I find that that's a little bit like searching for a needle in a haystack. However, there are tons of clients out there looking for you. And if you if you have honey, right? And then the flies they'll find their way to you if they can smell the aroma. So a few quick thoughts when I'm looking at the website here. I'd say one big immediate change you can do is, I'm not sure how to contact you. There isn't an immediate contact or message me kind of button here. So I'd say that's a big one. And then in terms of how can you create more of like the attract flies with honey method, I think we're friends on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I don't think I see you sharing some of your work in a presented format. And I'd say right here, you already have a lot of the images, right? So one easy way to start putting some honeypots out there, right? What if you took little snippets of the projects you already have and kind of share them out there and tell people about, hey, this is a project I worked on. This was the final result. This is what I learned from it. Would you like something similar? That's something I tried early on before I kind of had started building a foundation, and it got people's interest and it made it very clear what I was capable of doing.
Are you on social media, Miriam? Because I could see, I find that a really great way to start interacting with people. People don't feel so, they don't feel it's hard to actually contact someone and write a little note saying, great, love this design or something, which is a great way to break the ice and start a conversation. Whereas if you're going down the slightly more formal route of trying to attract people to your website or trying to go to them direct, then that's a slightly harder conversation to have. So I can see these images here; they look great. I mean, you've got 6, 7, 8 different pieces of work. You've got some brand work. You've got some, you've got some bag designs. You've got video. You've got lots of different kinds of things you could do. And I guess in some ways you might benefit from a bit more targeting of people. So I guess you may have contacted industrial design companies already, or the sort of people you want to be sort of working for. Maybe you should like their pages on their social media pages and try and get that kind of, just try and get yourself noticed in that kind of conversation. So have you got social media pages? Do you use social media at all or not?
I use LinkedIn for most communications as for finding new opportunities. And that's how I got my most recent projects working on a social media marketing campaign. I do have a Facebook. I don't actively use it where I really ever post. I don't really ever post anything on there. And I don't really post to my Instagram either. But I am also working on developing a product, which I will be building an Instagram page for that and regularly posting to advertise that particular product.
That's good to know. I've had some amazing feedback from Instagram, just because I can't write very well, but I've got great images, and I've got as many images as I could possibly want to publish. So I spend a lot of my time on Instagram and liking people who are potential customers, and it's worked very well. It's worked amazingly well because it's a much more social way of talking about business, where it's not Facebook, which is a bit more trendy and social. And I find with LinkedIn, it's very much about sell all the time. Very much people aren't listening, trying to push all the time. And I find personally Instagram is that halfway house. So maybe that's something that is worth considering, rather than putting your efforts into Facebook. Maybe Instagram might be possibly a better place for you to start pushing yourself and start liking the work of customers and potential employers.
What do you think about doing multiple platforms simultaneously through like an app that shares to all of them?
Yeah. Why not?
I think that's an easy way to duplicate your effort, but the idea is to create value around you by engaging with your community, right? Engaging directly with the people who you're going to be working alongside and partnering with, and sharing your work with. And that's a lot of what Paradigm's community does, is brings people together. We have the Founders Foundry. If you want to get involved, that's for people who want to start their own business, or are in the startup phase, or currently running a business on their own, and it's just resources that we share with you and the community shares with each other, because you're not in this alone, and it's definitely a struggle. If you guys can all attest to the fact that it's a long uphill journey, right? But
Right.
there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're here to provide some of those resources and help you get there. Sonny,
I
you
have
want
a
to
little
share?
bit of feedback if,
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't want to cut
yeah,
her off. Go ahead.
yeah. Just for Miriam, your portfolio, I think one of the biggest questions that I have when I look at it and I walk away from it is like, are you focusing more on industrial design or graphic design? I think that can be one of the biggest ways to differentiate yourself. I know that's especially as someone like you had an industrial design major, but a graphic design minor. But I think as someone a potential client who's coming to your website, they're going to want to see something that's a little more focused probably. It doesn't mean that you have to take out completely one or the other. It's more, you can maybe have two different pages for them. So a lot of graphic designers are also into photography, but they have a separate page for their photography so that they can focus on whatever, maybe UX or marketing design, and then have a separate page for their other skill set. So someone can have a more focused view into what your skill set is. I think currently, I know this is something that's hard to overcome, but having mostly like school projects is probably not going to be the strongest pitch for someone who's asking for like a real world project. So I know that you said that you worked on some things on your internship, and NDAs are the worst. Those are really hard to overcome too. But anything that you said that you're working on your own project right now, like adding that to your portfolio as soon as you can, to show that you've accomplished like a real world project, and that this is, the goal that I started with, the tools that I used. I love your case study format that you already have in your portfolio. That's already something that you've done. That's a great thing. A lot of people don't have a case study format in their portfolio. They just kind of have a few shiny images, and that doesn't tell me much about your process, but like you have your process laid out, which is great. And so I would encourage you to include, as you're redoing your portfolio, as much like real world projects as you can.
Yeah. One.
Really quick.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Sunny, you can go ahead.
One quick little thing that I've done before with NDAs is it never hurts to ask your employer there if there's anything that you could show, or if they might be able to give you advice as to how you could demonstrate your work there. And you'll find that I've never had a case where someone wasn't willing to work with me to figure out what I could show. Maybe it's wiping off a logo or changing a color or something.
Yeah, +1 to that.
Yeah, and what would you guys say about like creating your own project based on something you did in an internship, like following the same format, just changing things a little bit, tweaking it, and doing your own project, even if it's not, for a company or for somebody? What do you
Obviously
think?
something that is for someone else. So you specifically said these are the stakeholders, and the stakeholders weren't me. Like that's important. Constraints are what define a design project, to be honest. When you're in school, you don't get a ton of constraints. Whereas when you're in a work environment, you're going to get nothing but constraints. And that's what defines your final product to a large degree. So I would definitely encourage you to do what Sunny suggested, which is like try to negotiate with the person that you did the work for. It's really important when you're creating contracts, which is an entirely different topic, for your work, that you stipulate that you are allowed to put the work that you do in your portfolio as a part of like the agreement between you and the client.
It's a great point.
Sometimes the client's a little too big for you to have that kind of negotiating power, but as more often than not, it's really helpful to do that. Sorry, Miriam, we kept interrupting you. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, that was really great feedback and advice. One point I did want to say was I have always been interested in industrial design and looking for a way to get in that industry.
Yeah.
But most every opportunity that I've found has been graphic design related.
Yep.
And as far as the projects I have currently, I have talked with my boss, and they were not okay with me putting anything on my website or showing anything publicly until the project had ended.
Okay.
And for my case, creating content for them had ended, but the project is still running at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can resonate. I had an experience where I had a project where I had to wait about like 4 or 5 months before I could show any component of it. And I'd say it's worth the wait. And you definitely don't want to sour a relationship by going against what they said. And then in regards to the clause about like being able to include a piece of it for self-promotional purposes, It's in every single one of my contracts. And if someone has a problem with it, they'll usually bring it up, and then you can negotiate about it up front, which helps also protect you and make sure that you can demonstrate some form of documentation for your work.
That is definitely going to go in the next contract that I have.
Yeah,
I feel for you.
Yeah, one of my I guess most valuable investments I ever did was I had a lawyer draft up a totally custom contract for me, and he took me the whole process where he addressed all of my needs and anything I wanted to do that was unique. And he also designed the contract in a way that it could apply to the relationship that I have with that particular employer, rather than having it be like per project and you always have to create a new contract. So that really helped out a lot as well. And I think I thought it was very worth it. And then you had a question about how do you get more into the industrial design industry. So are you part of IDSA? It's like the AIGA, but for industrial design.
I would say I'm more affiliated with the AIGA because the events are free. And I do have several connections there. But no, as far as the IDSA, I don't currently know really anyone in that circle or network.
Gotcha. Feel free to connect with me after the event, but I'd say because industrial design tends to get a little more niche than like AIGA does, I think it's a little more tighter knit, and it ends up having it costs more to have events with smaller people or smaller groups of people. And there's less businesses and organizations that have specific industrial design needs. But there are some connections that I could help you facilitate, and then you can start building those from there. I'd say for industrial design related projects, there's all across the board, but people looking to do Kickstarters is often a really good spot, because you can help them create CAD models and visualize their products before they're made or manufactured. Working with investors is also another good spot to look at, because a lot of people who are trying to create physical products need outside capital, whereas if people are creating like a website-based service or whatnot, they usually tend to not need as much capital to get started. So that's also a good place to talk to. And then invention or IP companies are also good places to talk to. So IP companies mainly because they need to create patent drawings and CAD models for that as well.
Can I throw in an example for you, Miriam? One of my customers is actually a bag and case designer. They're the biggest bag and case designer in the UK, and probably one of the top 2 or 3 in Europe. And funnily enough, I've heard them say that when they have designers approach them who go through the marketing departments, they often won't reach the people who really need to see your portfolio, who are the industrial designers, the head of design. So actually, take your time and research who the real person is that you need to contact. That might be stating the obvious, but actually, if you write to the managing director, but he's in charge of finance, or or the marketing person who's actually in charge of external marketing to their clients, you're sort of barking up the wrong tree, as we say. So actually take the time to find out who the people are that you need to write to. And quite often it may well be that the head of design is going to be 10 times more interested in your work, industrial design, than say, somebody else that you might all be told to write to. So it's just worth having to think about who those people are going to be and target your own marketing, as it were, to the right places. And then you will cut down your effort and hopefully, get a higher success rate of contacting the right people.
It's great advice. Excellent.
Okay.
Well, if there's nothing else, I don't know if we have enough time. Well, we have enough time if one more person wants to go. Anybody? All right. Well, we didn't have as many people actually show up to this live, but we might have some people showing up afterwards and getting some of this advice and feedback on what it means to be, your own self-made designer and taking that into the design studio. So, Sonny, you want to share a little bit? Oh, wait, we have, Lana. Hey. Oh, you're muted. Here. No.
Okay.
There
I
you
don't
go.
know how much I can share, but I ran my own consultancy for about 10 years, and I worked with small businesses for brand creation and promotion. One thing I did notice is that it's equally important, and I don't know if you would agree with me or not, so we can have that question up for discussion, but I feel like it's equally important to work for yourself as an entrepreneur running your own studio as much as it is important to get the in-house experience, because the conditions of work are different. So there were various points in time where I felt like working for myself was really great, but then also getting that in-house and specifically collaborating with others. So it depends on the level of the project management where you're at. But basically, it's the kind of with the larger companies, for instance, when you get into larger projects and you have to work with multiple people and kind of comply and balance out the creativity with the business aspects of every project, that really kind of both can get under your skin and put those kinds of limitations where you grow. But yes, with being an in-house designer, there's a question of portfolio that comes up really strongly. So there's a lot of my work that I will never be able to show, which is just, but then I got to retain that experience. So, and another thing I wanted to add in terms of how to get that experience is there are various contests that, you could enter to try to gain get the project and get that more of a I guess real life experience. So, and maybe Philip could share a little bit about the contests specifically.
About the what contests?
Yes, about the design contests and how to enter them and how to bid.
I don't know if you can hear the noise out there, but someone's letting off fireworks. It's not. I don't know what's going on. It's not the 4th of July. It's not gunfire. I'm not in danger, folks. All right, just don't worry.
Okay. We won't send the ambulance yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
I wasn't quite sure what Lana was saying about contests. So could you ask me that again? I'm sorry, I was off put by the fireworks.
Yeah. I think she was saying, could you share a little bit more about getting exposure through design contests?
Oh right, okay. Yes. So, well, I mean, you've got.
Well, specifically, let me. How about this? How about Philip? I will interview you. How do you find out about the contest? For instance, to enter a contest for, let's say a city logo or some sort of other work where you have to sort of compete with other creative agencies and designers. First of all, how do you find out about them? Second, how do you prepare for them? What is the process? Because I think that might help all of us. So
yeah, she's doing my job. Thank you. Back.
So number one, you need to have your ear to the ground. I read a lot of the design press, or online press now. You hear through friends and contacts. I belong to various business groups, business design groups. And they're always trying to throw stuff at you because they make money out of it. They make money out of all the competitions and contests that you go in for. Every time you enter, it's going to cost you $100 or $200 or whatever it is. So there is that. I mean, in some senses, it's up to you. It's part of your self-promotional tool to go out there and market yourself. After all, would you like to use a designer who's got an award for being a great designer, or another designer who maybe hasn't got an award? Now, awards don't count for everything, but it is some mark of your ability if you've got some awards under your belt.
You're better than somebody.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You're going to get the job, but so. But it in some senses, whenever I do enter for competition or contest, I make sure that it's absolutely one. I've got a piece of work that I'm really proud of. You've got to want to show the work. If you can talk about it and you feel confident in it, then that's the best place to start, right? And secondly, you've got to think that does it stand a bit of a chance? It's okay to enter stuff in, but if you're not going to stand a chance of winning, you need to have an awareness, if you like, of what else is going on in the design world. You have an idea of the kind of competition, the right category. There's all these sorts of things that sort of play into the whole mix of things. Quite often it's a bit of luck. I hate to say it, but there is an amount of luck. There's a number of people I know who win awards because they're best friends on the committee. It's there's all these sorts of things going on. but have confidence in yourself, have confidence in your work, take your best piece of work, make sure you target the competition correctly. If there are free competitions, just give them a go. It's a chance to have a go at a piece of design that you might not necessarily do, and push the boat out a little bit, try something you might not ordinarily do, because you might enjoy it, and you might also come up with a piece of work that you wouldn't ordinarily have done. Sometimes it's an opportunity to take a bit of a risk, and sometimes that can be wonderful. Sometimes you can just free your mind and you come up with something which you've never thought you'd do before. That might be the materials, what you say, how you do it, all those sorts of things. So yeah, I see competitions as a chance to show off a little bit, but also a chance to. It's also a marketing. It's also a marketing ploy, because you can gain kudos or prizes or friends.
Or friends, yeah.
I have a question about with competitions and creating work for competitions. Inevitably, you're probably creating what will most likely be free work. Like no one's going to pay for it, right? Like only if you win will you be paid for that work, which isn't something that's feasible for a lot of people who maybe need to work for money. So like, what are your thoughts on that? And like, what should the balance be there?
I haven't come across that very often. It's just not something that is very common over here. I'm not sure that's something I'd get involved with particularly, because I prefer to know that I won something because it was a genuine piece of work that was set by a client, that had a rigorous set of a brief or a rigorous set of particular things you had to achieve in the design, whether it was the look, the feel, the salability, what it happened to be, function. So there are more competitions out there than you could possibly enter. So I would err on doing work that you really feel is good work that you'd want to enter, rather than doing something and only get paid for it. If you win, it doesn't sound like a very good use of your time. I mean, in some sense, we're moving into a whole different area of pitching here, aren't we? I guess that's almost like a pitch, isn't it? So I belong to an organisation who don't believe in pitching is good. Period. You just don't do it, because a client is getting 3 or 4 different companies. They're getting all those ideas. Potentially they might take one that's not the one that won. Then what are those other 3 designers doing? Well, several important things. The most important one is that it's devaluing design, actually. Not that you're losing money. It's up to you if you want to work for something for no money. You might win it, but you take a risk. It may pay off. For example, I used to work on annual report design, and 4 agencies would all pitch for I used to pitch for the BBC worldwide annual report. Now that was worth like $500,000. So of course it's worth pitching for that. You can give 3 designers 2 weeks on that, and hey, if you win it, you're laughing. And if you don't lose it, well, you just take it on the chin and you work on a law of averages. Now, a big company might want to do that, but a smaller company, like a 2 or 3 man band, I just don't have the time for that. I just don't have the time. So generally, my criteria for pitching is, sorry, we moved on to pitching. It's not what we were talking about, was it? But I would do a credentials pitch, but I won't, and I would probably do a written ideas pitch, but I won't do any visual work. So that's kind of how I get around doing work for free in a pitch. But I generally rather not go for a pitch unless I really wanted to win that customer, unless it's someone I really wanted to win. The last one I did was about 2 years ago, and I do a lot of work in tourism, and a tourism contract for a whole country was up for grabs. They weren't paying any money, but it was worth my while going for that, because I want to expand my tourism and travel portfolio of work. So in that situation, it was worth doing, and I gave a few sketch designs.
So you're just putting forth your best copy foot, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Largely backed up by my testimonials, by Beauty Parade, previous work I've done in that sort of thing. So, but as for competitions and only get paid on competitions, that's not for me. I wouldn't do that.
That's a tough game. It's a tough game for sure. What do you have any input, Sonny, on that?
I'm pretty much in agreement. It really doesn't make much sense, and it just would further a precedent and a shift in the market that really wouldn't be good for anyone in just about any industry in general if it became the norm.
Does that answer your question, Lana?
Well, I basically wanted to respond to there was a suggestion about how to gain portfolio pieces that are from real life. So in other words, that was the idea. That was a response to that. But yes, absolutely. Well, there's a whole lot more when it comes to design, and specifically pitching for contests and just pretty much any competitive work. Is the question is how to protect the work. So how to protect the ideas, and there's not really very much of protection to the idea. So there's that component of how to share the idea to present yourself in the most powerful way, and yet not to overshare an idea to the point where somebody takes it and develops further and you get no credit. So that there's a balance to that. And so I don't know if anybody had any insight about that, or if we had any time for this discussion.
You're gonna have to rephrase the Oh, I just realized what time it was, guys. Hey, well, if you want to get information on these guys, these designers and creatives, then subscribe to the Event Horizon on Paradigm, and that is at paradigm.cx/subscribe. And I will send out a blurb about this whole meeting and information to contact all of them if you want, or to check out their sites. And with that, we got to wrap it up, guys. Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate you all being here and sharing your wisdom and advice.
Good to meet you all. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Hey, all.
Bye.